of innocent people will be convicted in an effort to ensure that not a single guilty person goes free. You see the difference? Then you have the third situation, the worst form, where a person is guilty by definition, where the law states if a certain situation arises, a person is guilty and he has no defense. How does this apply to us right now? South Africa had adequate laws to take care of all of its crimes. Then when 9/11 took place, 11th of September, when the Twin Towers came down, America enacted the Patriot Act. And South Africa followed suit and enacted the Anti-Terrorism Act. And this Anti-Terrorism Act, we had absolutely no need for it. But the Anti-Terrorism Act has introduced a completely new dimension to the legal structure in South Africa. For the first time, we have lost the principle of being innocent until proven guilty. Now, previously, the law worked like this. A person could only be convicted of a crime if he violated the law of a country while he was in that country. So, let me give you an example. Let's say, for example, a woman from Saudi Arabia who knows that in public she has to dress in a particular way. She visits Paris and walks around in a mini dress. The Saudi government cannot charge and arrest that woman because she did not break a Saudi law in Saudi Arabia. While she was in France, she lives under French law. While she lives in Saudi Arabia, she lives under Saudi Arabia law. She had broken no Saudi law. So she could not be convicted now. With the anti-terrorism law, that has changed. For the first time, a person can be convicted of a crime for doing something in a country, and he can be convicted in South Africa, even though in terms of everything else, he has actually done no crime. For example, I am a doctor. I may decide to spend 2 weeks in Palestine doing voluntary work. And Hamas is an organization that has clinics, and it runs mosques, and it runs hospitals. And if I was working in one of those clinics that's administered by Hamas, when I return to South Africa, I can be arrested as a supporter of terrorism because Hamas has been declared a terrorist organization. I have committed no crime in South Africa, but I can be arrested as a supporter of terrorism. Now let me give you another example of how this anti-terrorism law can be applied in South Africa. Let's say you have got a flat and you've got a tenant that's living there. He's a good law-abiding citizen, but every month he sends a small amount of money to Palestine to help run the clinics where I happen to be working. This person orders pizza, and the pizza man, while delivering, his car breaks down. And you, any one of you who's watching this, happen to be driving by, and he sees this pizza delivery man, recognize him, and gives him a lift on his way. If the person who was sending the money to Hamas is identified and is arrested, he can be arrested as a supporter of terrorism. The landlord, because he gave housing to a terrorist, can be arrested as a supporter of terrorism, and therefore terrorist. The pizza delivery boy providing food to a terrorist can be arrested as a terrorist. You driving in your car giving a lift can be arrested as a terrorist. So in other words, everybody who had come in contact with anybody else who had come in contact with everybody else who had come in contact with somebody who was arrested as a supporter of terrorism can all be arrested as terrorists. That is why when you watched certain movies, like during the Second World War, these women huddling and walking around, not wanting anyone to see them or talk to them. Why? Because the same principles applied. If they spoke to somebody, they may be arrested because that person may have spoken to somebody and known somebody, and actually you become in trouble. And that is the way we are going right now, a perversion of the law. Why are they doing this? When you have such a principle, you are effectively breaking down the barriers, breaking down the borders. We are applying principles that will apply internationally, so that anybody who resists American imperialism anywhere in the world will have nowhere to go, because wherever he goes, he can be arrested as a terrorist, something which never existed in the past. And if these laws existed a few years ago, before we were liberated from apartheid, every ANC member anywhere in the world would have been arrested as a terrorist because they were working to support an organization that was declared a terrorist organization. You must remember that the people that are controlling the system, and they have great power. They control governments, they control businesses, they control the education institutions, they control the media, very powerful. When we try to tackle this problem in a peaceful way, we're going to find a lot of resistance. There are those who believe that they can solve the problems by working from within their political system. Don't believe them. They are misled. These political institutions have been set up in order to promote this one world government in the end. If we go there as Muslims and Christians and Hindus, yes, they will welcome us. They will welcome us because we are bringing along other people who have fallen for the trap. We are submitting ourselves to their system. But if we go there in an effort to change, they will sideline us. We've seen this happen to Galloway in England. We've seen this happen to Ron Paul in America. We've seen this happening to Hamas, an organization which won the election, was declared free and fair. And what happened? They were terrorized. They themselves were terrorized. They were prevented from governing. If you try to use democracy to further your own objectives, it's very difficult. But that must not deter us from the modern slave. Is a slave to the system, to the political system, to the financial system. And when you have those who have managed to acquire a lot of wealth, working together with government, they work together to ensure the slavery is perpetuated. Our chain has been replaced by taxes. The agent of the slave master is the Central Reserve Bank, and as close as we can understand, the slave master themselves are certain ruling banking families, which may include people like the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, members on the Council of Foreign Relations, the Tricameral Group, the Bilder Group. People in that league have become the new world masters. Elaborate on how the law is being used to perpetuate our slavery. These laws are put into place way in advance, so that when we are actually hit with it, it comes as a total surprise. And always the laws are presented as if it is for our benefit. But if we look behind the charade, we will see how it is to our detriment. For example, we have embraced the idea that child abuse is bad. And we've embraced this, and this law, if it has not been enacted, will be enacted, that states that anybody who hits his child, who abuses his child, will be declared a child abuser, and the child can be taken away from them. I foresee a time, not in the too distant future, where religion would have been sidelined to the extent that we are told not to discuss religion with our children. And if we did, we would be arrested. But all the believers in God will disregard and say, we will continue teaching our children at home and make them aware of God. It's inevitable that if you have a child and you're teaching your child, she would or he would in school mention something which would reveal the fact that you were teaching them principles of religion. You would end up having these guys knocking on your door and arresting you as a child abuser. And you'll say, what child abuse? You're mistaken. They say, yes, your child mentioned these things that you had said. And you'll realize, oh yes, this is the thing I've been teaching my child about God. And say, you've been arrested as a child abuser. And I say,